How hard would these Metroidvania protagonists go if they got together and were hanging out and started casually playing Pokemon cards and making decks with more or less the same pool of cards, with some people getting their own, and just started, doing little casual tournaments over the course of a summer? Tonight we're gonna find out. Where is X, Y, and Z character? Well, this is not a definitive list. These are my Melovania protags from Metroidvanias that I am familiar with. It is my list of friends that I know. If you want to think of your own headcanon for your own characters, go ahead. But there's lots of games I haven't played, like Ori, a number of Castlevanias, the Zoomer smash hit 9 Souls I've not gotten to, because all my Souls energy goes to Silksong. I have not played Ender Magnolia yet because my copy exists in the Void dimension, and I haven't played Blasphemous, the Millennial smash hit, because all my Souls energy goes to Silksong. So hitting right back from the athleticism tournament, we have a bit of a reversal where Jonathan, the King Jock from 1930s America playing pure concussion Amefuto, is down in C or D. The 3 categories we got here are skill at tactical card games, investment in the game, which is a cheeky little thing I said, where how much you're invested in collecting and raising and getting all the cards for Pokemon, / how much could you potentially pay to win if you cared to. And then the third one is kind of heart of the master, heart of the game. How much do you actually care about being a Pokemon trainer and investing yourself in your team, / how much competitive spirit do you have? How much do you want to win at something meaningless? That is the third category. I don't think he's particularly great in any of those, but he's kind of a free agent between C and D. Charlotte, however, after being the face of the loser nerds who are not good at sports, is an easy top of A tier because she is so invested in petty competition. She is great at collecting and amassing pools of knowledge with her spells and stuff like that, and she commands Jonathan like a Pokemon, as Moose always says. In fact, the idea for this may have come from Moose's comment. I don't know. She's going to be one of our exemplary A tiers, and yeah, you really can't look down on Charlotte. If these two grew up with Pokemon, which is a big topic for the human characters who exist on Earth, we're going to talk about that later, I feel like it's possible Charlotte would have been so into Pokemon and beating Jonathan at it that he would have either gotten kind of good but burned out, or just completely turned away from it. In this situation where they're being introduced fresh in my hypothetical twisted protagonist dimension, I'm sure he would try, but in the end he'd probably bounce off Charlotte being such a fucking show-off. Okay, now let's go through the little creature category. There are many subcategories emerging in this gathering of buddies here. There's so many fun ones. It's a shame that I can't talk about one of my favorite groups, the emo band with Zhao / Zuberi, Yohane, and Soma Cruz. The emo band, unfortunately, they will not be talked about together. They must be separated for points of discussion. But yeah, we can talk about most of the little creature category. This creature is a cat. Yeah, here we go. So one of the big things with this category is how good are they with language? How much can they understand? Where is their skill? The animal from Animal Well is one of the hardest to place here because, how invested are they in competition? Probably not much. I don't think there's much competition in the well where they live. How much do they care about Pokemon and being a trainer? This one is some ups and downs where I think they are in tune with creatures and they're willing to learn about other fantastical beings, but some Pokemon might read as predators and thus frightening to them, which could hurt things. How much could they? Okay, they might be able to collect cards. They might get invested in collecting cards, but that really depends on their language ability, which ranges from they're kind of just a creature to some absolutely incredible feats of language in the later game that I can't even necessarily mention here. Concepts of language that even I, the player, don't really understand. I'm putting them in brat tier. I think they could do a little bit of damage. I think they're alright, but I'm not going to overscale them. Then I have Kiki, and I swear to fuck Kiki. Are they both named Kiki? It's been long enough that I kind of forget this now. I know that Gato Roboto's protagonist is named Kiki, but isn't this Faerie Afterlight character also named Kiki? Faerie Afterlight, I can't think of anything helpful for her. I mean, I really don't rate her tactical prowess very highly. I know she's capable of speech and talking to other creatures. I don't know how much she cares about collecting cards. There's not a lot to work with, and she doesn't read as very, like, go-get-em or competitive, so she's on the lower half of D tier. But on the upper half of D tier, Kiki, the Gato Roboto Gato, she's good. Can she read? No. But she can operate a mech, and I feel like with some assistance, she has, like, the spirit and the desire to, like, figure things out that it would take to pilot a deck to victory. I think she's fun to have around. I think she's alright for D tier. Nin from Imp of the Sun is a flame elemental of the sun that was born yesterday. And I think they can talk, but they can only talk to like 3 different people. They've only been alive for, a matter of hours. And they burn everything that they hold immediately, which gives them a very low score for skill. And all they do is run around and fight things, and their mission is just to fight things. I can't think of anybody less suited to playing Pokemon. Like, I'm sure Nin has the competitive spirit to, like, kind of get involved, but we got, like, very basic language, very basic strategic thought, and literally burns the cards. F for fire, you can't escape. Now it is time to go to space with the next 2. We have Samus, and we have the protagonist of Ultros. If she has a name, I don't know it. She's just Ultros. I would call her the Gardener, but there's already a character named the Gardener, and he is a separate creature. I like him, the Gardener. He's pretty epic. So Samus is going to stay here in the collector tier. She's an intelligent woman. I'm not concerned about her, like, literacy. I don't think I should be concerned about her literacy. Now, she reads, like, lore. She, like, talks to her coworkers. She's fine. I don't think she has the competitive spirit, though, and I don't think she cares much about being a trainer. Like, okay, here, I gotta mention it. She might get attached to a Pokemon or two, the baby. She might get attached to creatures. I'm not saying she's heartless, but does she have the inclination to get obsessed with, like, creating a team and that, like, pack mentality and trainer life? It's not screaming to me. Is she poor? Does she have money? I actually really don't know. I don't really know her financial situation, but between the whole lone wolf thing and her intelligence going to, like, solving how to kill... Okay, she understands how to find the weaknesses of monsters, which is good. She's not going to be, like, D tier or anything, but I just don't think Samus cares, and unlike in athletics, what she has isn't going to carry her. However, a character probably none of you know, Ultros, is from the psychedelic space gardening video game. And Ultros from Ultros is, well, okay. Ultros from Ultros has to learn how to manage a huge variety of space plants and raise them. And that's different, right? That's different from having a Pokemon necessarily, but the kind of same philosophy is there. You have to learn not type matchups, but how different things work in different situations. And I feel like it is very easy to get the sense that it is natural and important for her to master systems like this. I just feel like what she goes through in her game has some similarities to Pokemon in a fundamental way. I don't necessarily think she cares that much about competition, but she is very clever in figuring things out. And I don't know, man, at the end of the day, having to nurture these plants through multiple cycles, and especially, something I don't talk about with many of these characters at all is that being a trainer is about being connected to others and stuff like that, and learning tips from other characters in the game about how to garden. It feels more like a Pokemon adventure than it has the right to. She's not high in A tier, but I'm gonna slip her into A tier, and you should give her some respect on the battlefield. So one topic that I have not been exploring enough, there are many ways to deal with this problem, is how would these characters get invested? I think part of why I feel confident about Lady Ultros is that grass-type Pokemon would be fun for her. And similarly, okay, maybe Steel-type Pokemon would be fun for Kiki, the robot mech, I don't know. That might be fun. There are a lot of different types of Pokemon that the animal might like. Fairy types, Fairy Afterlight, maybe. The Fire Spirit Nin would probably quite like fire types, but that passion is not enough to get her out of there. Or him. Definitely him. Now, we move on to the next category of little guys after a short intermission. And I hope this doesn't become a routine thing because it makes me laugh so hard. But I am going to discuss the Jax from Shin Megami Tensei. Fucking hell. Am I gonna mispronounce it every time I do one of these? Shin Megami Tensei, not Tensei, and the protagonist of Hollow Knight, which is kind of comical. Like, yeah, the Jax have aura, but this is like quite the aura. Like, complexity gap? I don't know. So, I really am struggling with these as well. I'm not struggling with everybody, trust me, but these two pairs are really just odd. As far as I can tell, and I'm going to out myself and look like a fool and completely ruin my ability to make a Persona video later in the month with this, but to my knowledge, the Jax mostly function as Pokemon, and I know like the demons in SMT have a little bit more like sentience going on than Pokemon for sure, and you can like talk to them about taxes or whatever in SMT5, but if most of their life in game is being led and being used as a Pokemon, I don't think that lends them to being Pokemon very well. They might find an affinity with ice and fire types or ghost types or whatever, but I don't know, man. Like, I think they're perfectly capable of being Pokemon trainers, but they spent their whole lives being Pokemon, and maybe that would make them care more, but I'm not sure. The next two, they look like middle stage or even first stage, like dark ghost Pokemon or dark bug Pokemon. These guys are funny to me because if they looked at the menagerie of Pokemon, they would probably see a range of like low-key predators or like very intimidating looking types and like babies to take care of. I think they would care about Pokemon, but similar to the animal in a sort of as equals way. Of course, they're sentient, they're literate, they have their own stuff going on. They're perfectly competent players, even if the little ghost doesn't speak very much. Hornet definitely has demonstrated an ability to do Pokemon trainer things, but there's just so many questions I have after that. One issue is that the Pokemon they would see themselves in kind of suck. Like Scorpy, Shuppet, I don't know. There's a good number of Pokemon I like that kind of look like a Hollow Knight character. Little guys with big eyes and kind of drab shapes. They're always kind of shitty. Like these little like, you know, first stage, second stage, ghost dark, bug types, poison types for sure. I love that shit. They're not gonna get far with that shit, at least by like... Okay, maybe I'm showing my my video game bias here, but in the video games, that shit's not going to get you very far unless you're very into Marshadow or something. I can't say that I see their futures going very well as bug-type trainers, but they are very smart. And then I go to, like, who is the better one between them? I'm trying not to spoil Silksong or have Silksong spoiled, but I feel like Little Ghost has more biological like creature helper followers. There are more times when I find myself using little creature Pokemon helpers with Little Ghosts, but I have not seen everything in the world for Hornet. I don't know, Hornet's a very skilled competitor for sure, and I have no doubt about her literacy compared to Little Ghost, but Little Ghost just feels a little bit more like I've seen them in action as a Pokemon trainer. I might just be missing Silksong things, don't tell me. I don't know, these guys are kind of stuck together, but at least for the sake of the video, I can keep them here and just not think about it for a bit. Is ranking Jack Skellington among Metroidvania protagonists always going to be the best part of these videos, or am I just enjoying it a lot now? I did my research here. I was wondering, how hands-on is Jack with Halloween? Because when Jack tries to make Christmas, he is very hands-on. He shows a skill for like monitoring everybody in town as they create presents and shit like that, which gives me the impression he'd be excellent at taking care of a whole menagerie of Pokemon. But is that just because this was a special mission he thought of? What are his responsibilities every year? I don't really know, even as a bit of a Nightmare Before Christmas head. So I rewatched Jack's Obsession, the Something's Up with Jack scene. I looked inside his house, and I saw, he is a very well-read individual. He has his hands in a lot of fields when it comes to Halloween, and I think that it is fair to say he's pretty put together, he's pretty clever, and he is maybe something of a manager, administrator type figure for the other people during Halloween, but I don't know. Right, like what does Pumpkin King even mean? Does he just show up and do his little song and dance at the end, or does he have a hand in all of the affairs of the town? I really don't know, so I'm putting him in as a wild card A tier because Something's Up with Jack is such a funny, like almost neurodivergent, or at least hashtag quirky introvert scene of just getting obsessed with something and learning everything you can about it, which he would definitely do with Pokemon. And if that clicked, and if he did do that with Pokemon, he would become a Pokemon master. And again, you know what? I'm going to bring out Miriam real quick because something I almost never get to talk about with these characters who are such like independent little freaks is being a trainer is not just a way to connect with Pokemon, but other people. It's a community thing. I think Miriam is the only person I put down in this whole friggin' list who is friendly enough that I feel she would enjoy bonding with others and connecting with them through her Pokemon. Miriam's getting B tier because she's just another person that collects things and is decently intelligent, but and maybe even more so than these guys, I just feel like, she collects so many different things, and I feel like she connects with so many people in the game that she just kind of leads a bit of a Pokemon trainer life. Jack takes that to the next level, where I think being able to put smiles on people's faces as a Pokemon trainer, or frankly, he even has the personality to be the Pokemon League champion, I think he has a lot of potential. I'm just not clear enough on what his duties are, and I don't know what his skills would be and how well they would translate. He does have access to a lot of wealth, probably, and resources if needed to build a deck, and again, he would probably just collect them all on his own when he got hooked, so Jack is pretty good, but I know Charlotte's amazing, so I'm just going to put him somewhere in the middle. There's a lot of potential variability in the top tier right now. So, now we come to Soma and Alucard, characters who both did time in Japan in the 21st century where there is in fact Pokemon. I'm sorry to say to people who are aging right now, Soma is currently growing up in Japan, or Spain ambiguously, depending on the localization. I had to research. I thought it was canon that he was from Spain. It's just that he's in the localized non-Japanese games, he's just a vague foreigner, and we've been assuming he's Latino. I'm gonna keep going with the fact that he's probably from Spain, but even if he is, that's not all versions. He's from fucking Nagano. I did not know that this game took place in fucking Nagano. I figured it was some Tokyo shrine. Nagano is so funny. That's out of pocket. I wonder if someone's from Nagano on the team. So he's in Nagano right now playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, or potentially Spain playing Scarlet and Violet. So I think because Pokemon and the Switch are so big right now, he as like an iPad baby, like Gen Alpha basically, a Gen Alpha Switch era Pokemon enjoyer, or maybe he'll get into it with Winds and Waves, he's gonna be into Pokemon. He's the first person who canonically would probably be into Pokemon. I've said before that I think he's decently competitive and he's very smart and well put together, so he's definitely great. I don't think he's going to be as obsessed as he needs to beat Charlotte, but he also has something in beating Charlotte where he commands a whole army of souls to begin with. So Soma is one of the very best competitors we have. He also wouldn't be a bad Pokemon trainer in terms of, like, making friends with his Pokemon, making friends with his enemies. I think he has a lot going on, and in a better world, he can beat Charlotte, but Charlotte is not going to want to lose. She is simply not going to want this taken from her. So Soma would be freaking fantastic. How about Uncle Alucard? Alucard is also in Japan, and I believe he might be in Japan during Pokemania during the 1999 event. I think building up to 1999 and everybody there, if that battle happened in Japan, which I think it did, or maybe that was Spain, maybe that's why we think Spain. If the 1999 crew was gathering in Japan, they were all gathering during Pokemania or the tail end of it. But would Alucard care about Pokemania at that age? The thing about Alucard, as my friend pointed out, is he brings up his Japan trip in Nocturne Season 2 unprompted like 2 or 3 times. He goes to Japan, he's like, yes, I have been to Japan. Nobody asks him. He's just like, during my travels in Japan. Nobody asked you. He race fakes. He takes on like a Japanese intelligence agent identity for these the Sorrow games. He is pretty entrenched in Japanese culture during the era of Pokemon, and he would have been like a Gen 1er if he could potentially be a Gen 1er. We just don't know because he wasn't a kid, and you could just as easily be like, oh no, he's way too cynical, he's too sick of it all at this point. Even if his dad commanded an army of the dead or whatever, it doesn't mean that he wants to command an army of little friends. He has the resources, he has the intelligence, and I polled everybody back when I had this idea for the first time. Do you think Alucard gets really invested in like meaningless competition like this? Everybody kind of said yes from this channel back in like last July, because I could picture him being like Samus where he's above it, but I could also picture him really getting sucked into it. Now I'm going to say he probably has a bit of a competitive streak, but it is ultimately hard to say, does he give a shit? He might give a shit. He could give a shit. Would he give a shit? He would probably give a bit of a shit and be really good at it. So he's going to be on the lower end of the ace trainers. He was an interesting one. Now to just kind of knock out a few that are really not that interesting. Okay. Bam. Bam. Bam, maybe. No. Okay, so these spiritual maiden type characters from Momodora and Ender Lilies. Kaho from Momodora 4, like, sure, I don't know, man, like, she would like the cats or something because she transforms into a cat. Bruh, I have no idea. I'm sure she could play, but she doesn't seem very competitive. She's fine. There's nothing keeping her out of this competition for any reason. Momo, because she started in Momodora 5, she has at least collected familiars. She has collected cards. She has done kind of what you gotta do to be a trainer. And you know what? She even kind of has an adventure and like represents her town in a certain way that feels a bit Pokemon trainer-esque. So I'll give her a nice high C tier, but I can't say that she seems like super competitive or super smart or whatever. I actually bumped Lily from Ender Lilies up because even though this whole like recreation concept is new to her, I feel like she is just very connected to those who support her. She basically plays the most like a Pokemon trainer of any of these characters by summoning the spirits, and even if it might be hard to make her care about competing, I don't see why she wouldn't care. And also, I think she's the only little kid here. So she might be the only one who has her Pokemon era by playing cards with all the pro tags. Oh, now I actually give a shit. That's really sweet. Now we tactically take a break from talking about people who actually could have participated in Gen 1 Pokemania by talking about Zao and Zuberi, who are the protagonists of Tales of Kenzera. So Zuberi is an actual boy in a futuristic city, very, very far future. Zao is a character in a book that his dad writes, who is very much supposed to be him, and he's who you play. It's a framed narrative. So Zao exists in an African fantasy world which does not have Pokemon. Zuberi lives in hundreds, if not thousands of years into the future, in which I do still think there will be Pokemon. Perhaps in the Afro-futuristic future, there would be more support for African releases of Pokemon games. I honestly will put my coins on the table and say that Zuberi does know about Pokemon, and he's maybe in college or something here, but more importantly, in his room, it's been 2 years now, but in his room, he has like a lot of very modern, like contemporary feeling, like this era pop culture stuff. I feel like he has like a lot of rock band music memorabilia, and he bonds with his dad over a comic book about some important mythos figures from the world of Tales of Kenzera. So if he has comic books and guitars, I feel like he has Pokemon cards. But is he the protagonist, or is Zhao? Because Zuberi just walks around a house and reads a book and imagines or reads about Zhao's adventure. In a sense, he is Zhao, because as the player, we can feel the protagonist's energy baton transfer into Zhao. But Zhao wouldn't know anything about Pokemon. Also, even if he's based on Zuberi, he doesn't have a guitar or a comic book. Trying to set that aside, is he competitive? Boy, I don't remember, because that game has a good, rich story, and the only character trait, I mean, he's a decently made character, but he's a well-made character with a decent amount of traits, and because of that, he's so nuanced, I kind of forget. Like, he's very stubborn. Stubborn is the big thing, and that's helping him here, but he often does things on his own. And I wouldn't say cooperation or taking care of creatures is important to him. He's a lower tier wild card. Oh, it's hard. I'm going to put him above the Ultros girl because half of him would totally know about Pokemon. It's just like, is that data being processed here? Does Zuberi go to the Palace of Protagonists and go to these parties? I don't know. But I have some confidence, because at the end of the day, he is like probably 22 or so in my mind. Am I wrong? I think I'm right about that. Now we enter one of the very last chapters of today's talk, which is could they versus would they? Could Sakuya from Touhou be a good Pokemon trainer? Hell the fuck yes. If Remelia asked her to do it, then she would, as my friend who got me into Touhou said, pause time, learn all of the rules, get all of the cards, unpause time, and then kick your ass. She has almost unlimited potential. She has connections too that can get her like good shit. So she is fine on potential. But as my friend said, she has like no interest in it otherwise. She doesn't care about like petty competitions like this, and she doesn't seem to have any inclinations for Pokemon. Likewise, Professor Mulana from La Mulana, who I do not actually know that much about yet, he was the last character from the real world I had to research for this, and I did my research for most of the real world characters, but for him, I can't find a clear date on when the game takes place, and I can't find a clear age. All I know is he's a like middle-aged Japanese man, and I'm just gonna say he's not the type of Japanese middle-aged man that still cares about Pokemon. He knows a little bit, but I'm just not getting closet like otaku vibes here. I mean, he is an otaku probably, but for like capital O otaku stuff, I don't know. Does he care about Pokemon? I don't think so. But maybe I've undervalued him. Could he be a great player? Yes, he has a solid job. He lives in Japan. There's a lot of people he could probably play against, both young and old. He could have even been there in Gen 1. But does he seem like he would care? I don't think he would. And now pushing that concept way further, just way further. Indra. Indra. Her game takes place around the year 2052. We're getting very specific with the Axiom Verge characters. She is really starting to gray. She's a tech CEO, billionaire, top of the world type person. I'm putting her age somewhere between 50 and approaching 70, because her physique is still really good in the game when she has to run around in her flesh body. Like, I don't think she's like getting into her 60s there, but I feel like she's amassed so much knowledge and so much wealth and so much gray hair already that she's probably pretty deep into her 50s, pushing 60, at which point Indra would have been like a second grader during Pokemania. I'm pretty sure in the year 2052. Yeah, you subtract around 60 years, she is a grade schooler during Pokemania. However, does a love for Pokemon carry through 6 decades of a life that leads you to being a heartless tech mogul CEO bazillionaire? Could she be the best of them all? Yes. Would she be? I don't think she cares. She controls her drone like a Pokemon, which is cute, and she clearly has like the strategic mind. I do not think Indra cares. I don't think you can make her care. She could be almost like the evil villain of the region, because she could be powerful. I just don't think she cares. However, you want to know what Trace was doing? You want to know what Trace was doing during Gen 1 Pokemania? He was a 21-year-old physics student in college. He was an American, like, physics student or something. He was 21 when Pokemon hit. This guy was on early internet forums, probably talking about Haymaker and like the oldest original metagame shit on like the oldest websites right when it dropped. He probably bullied kids. Like, I don't know how much he would be into it. I do not know if he goes to like otaku stuff, but this dude was like a one-channer back when there was like nothing but a baby chan and a little sister chan. Like, there was like nothing on the internet yet, but he was there. He was there, and he was like 21 and bored and nerdy. He could do anything. He could dust off his old decks and come kick ass. He was there when the laws were written. Does he care? Maybe, possibly. I think it's very possible that he could care. He is a secret weapon, and I feel like there is so much there by saying he was an undergrad in Arizona or Nevada or whatever when Pokemon dropped that I think you can't really ignore that. But there is one other, even more perfect storm that I have been dying to talk about before we finish. Sorry for finishing on a character that literally nobody knows, but Yohane Tsushima is a Japanese 15-year-old, just like not quite millennial. She was born in 2001. Yes, she plays Pokemon. She was like a Gen 4, Gen 5 kid. Her anime came out in 2016, and she was 15 in that anime, or 14 maybe. But she was born in 01 or 02. She grew up with DS Pokemon, and she's still basically a kid. She's a neurodivergent, nerdy high schooler who is just obsessed with like games, and she like streams and shit. She's the best of them all. Like, Charlotte can do her best, but she's losing to Yohane, where one of her main fantasies is like controlling an army of the dead and everything. You're not gonna beat Yohane. She's world's material. She's the best of them all. There's no defeating her, except after I sat around thinking about Zhao and Zuberi, I realized that Yohane I just described is the real life Yohane. But we are playing a spin-off of a fantasy spin-off that takes place in her fantasies. And for some reason, in her fantasy world, she kind of nerfed herself and wasn't quite as crazy, all-powerful dark god as she said she was going to be. She's kind of just a fuck-ass whoever from a small town in a vaguely fantasy world with magic and fairies and shit. There's actually no Pokemon in this world, which really puts a wrench in things. The protagonist of the game is Yohane Tsushima, who is, in one reality, a 15-year-old from Shizuoka, but technically does not exist in that form in this game. So in Tales of Kenzera Zhao, we see the framed, like, real-world protagonist. You at least get to control him. You at least see him, like, shift his attention to the other protagonist, I guess, the fictional version of himself that his dad wrote. Yohane doesn't do that. Is Yohane from Numazu invited to the protagonist palace? Is her soul the same soul as the spin-off fantasy world soul that we actually play as? Like, I still feel like the fantasy Yohane has an argument to be at the top of the top tier. But what do I do? I guess it's up to you. Like the video, share the video, and comment. Do you think that a soul can unify the same person in multiple instances of reality and carry over core aspects of who they are, particularly in relation to the Pokemon collectible trading card series of cards? And if there's another version of you in another higher reality that knows a lot about Pokemon, does that make you better at Pokemon?